This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the Amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is the show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love. And as you know, as a reminder, I'm here to help you understand your dreams. So if you have a dream that's got you stumped, send it to me at debbie@dreampowerradio.com. I'll interpret your dreams and answer any questions you might have about the importance of dreams. So email me at debbie@dreampowerradio.com. Who knows, you might be featured on a later show also. If you've been listening to this program, you know I'm passionate about the importance of dreams. They give us the insights we can use to live our dream life. However, even the most inspiring dream means little if we don't have something even more important, our health. So today's program is going to be all about how we can live healthier and ultimately happier lives. What foods are best for us? What items do we need to avoid like the plague? Can food prevent illness? To answer these and other questions, I'm happy to introduce our guest, certified holistic health coach, Joey Sutton. Joey is wildly passionate about assisting people to love themselves with self-care strategies, support, and accountability. She assists her clients with individually designed food suggestions, self-loving strategies, and perspective shifts, all designed to tap into the innate wisdom within. Her mission is to inspire people to love their way to health. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Joey.
Thank you for having me, Debbie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you with us today also. You know, I love the idea that you say people can love their way to health. How can they do that?
Well, good question. Big question. First, I would like to say that I personally have had a lot of illnesses and injuries and tried lots and lots of different methods to get better. And one of the things that I noticed was that no matter how hard I tried or no matter how many dietary theories I tried, a lot of times what ended up happening was I would get disappointed, I would remain sick, or my sicknesses would move into other sicknesses. And I noticed that I needed what I call the higher medicine, which I feel is self-love. There was a lot of I think I lost you for a second. Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, how do you define self-love?
So good question. That's such a good question because it sounds like such a pat thing, like you have to love yourself. You know, I feel like I have to treat myself the way I would treat myself if I was the most loving mother or friend that I could ever, conjure up. And what I mean by that is, if I make a mistake, would a loving mother berate me for that? Or would a loving mother say, hey, did you learn something? If I had an injury, would a loving mother say, hey, get over it and get out of the house? Or would a loving mother say, hey, let's tend to that. Let's see what's going on. I think a lot of times we have this sort of no pain, no gain belief system. We have sort of a fast food, fast-paced society. We have a work yourself to death society. And I think we've become a nation's kind of proud of how much we can withstand, how much discomfort we can withstand, how many weights we can lift, how many miles we can run, on a broken leg or whatever. And I think there's something to that. There's something to the resilience of humanity. But there's also something to overlooking all the symptoms that we that are messages along the way. And so I feel like if I were a great mother to a small child and my child was hurting and I listened to the message, then we could maybe get that need met. Now, sometimes it's a stomach ache. and lots of kids get stomach aches and we're like, you're faking it. Oh, you're just upset. Well, you know what? Upset oftentimes does present itself as an ache, a stomach ache, a physical ache. Before it becomes a physical ache, we usually have messages on the way. First, it's an emotional ache. It's a discomfort. It's an inner message. So I feel like we have to tend to that with parental awareness, with kind, loving parental awareness. And not all of us had kind, loving parents. So we have to make up what that means. What kind of a kind, loving friend are you to someone? And how can I be that to myself? Is that, I could get more specific, but does that clear up what you're asking me, Debbie?
In general, it does. So what I hear you saying is that you don't just tell people what to eat in your practice. You deal with them, as you say in your title, holistically, and deal with all of them, not just what they put in their bodies. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. Yes. And I end up, I see people, they usually get to me with symptoms. They have diabetes, they have thyroid issues, they have, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, they have constipation, they have all sorts of symptoms. That's usually how someone will get to me, is they get to me with the symptoms. And I always say to them, the symptoms are not the problem, the symptoms are the message. The message is telling us what we've missed. There's all these clues that are laid out for us, and we've often missed them until they become really big. And so we sort of look at the symptoms and then we walk backwards from there. Most of the time we start out with the basics, the foundation of nutrition. And of course, that's a long course in and of itself, though I could give you some blurbs for your listeners. And then we move into lifestyle, sleeping, eating, exercising, basic rehabilitation for the human being. And then we usually move into deeper stuff. We move into the emotional stuff and the spiritual stuff, the heart, the essence of what's underneath so many of our symptoms. So if you want me to, I'll give you a few blurbs on what current modern day nutrition theories are, and maybe that will be helpful to some people.
I think that would be very helpful. So go ahead.
Okay. So for the last 20 years, nutrition science has told us that fat is bad, and they remove fat from everything, and everything's become not everything, I don't like using definitive words, but we've had a largely low-fat theory. The theory being that fat causes cholesterol causes heart disease. And, if you're doing a math problem, A times B equals C. And if you have the B wrong, your C is going to be wrong. So the B in this equation is fat causes heart disease. That belief caused a conclusion, C, which meant avoid fat. And now nutrition science is turning that upside down. Because we've believed up until now that fat causes heart disease and we've been avoiding fat, what we've done in order to replace the fats in our foods, we've increased carbohydrates. So for instance, if you're going to have a cookie and you're going to have a low-fat cookie, we increase the sugar in it by adding apple juice or applesauce or more sugar or more flour or something that would replace what the fat should have been providing. So now we have this higher carbohydrate content in our food supply, and we have the highest level of diabetes we've ever had. So much so that our children are now diabetic and are at risk of earlier mortality than even their parents. So the theories of nutrition are changing quite a bit. So we're trying to get the old thinking of the low-fat diet and switch it over to the good fat diet. So we want to increase good fats and healthy fats like avocados and olives and olive oil and coconut milk and coconut oils. Even, believe it or not, butter is on the healthy fat list. What's different about the theories of fat now, the healthy fats versus the unhealthy fats, is the recognition that we have this incredibly high amount of processed toxic foods that are available to most of us. I call them secular foods. And I mean that not because it's religious food, not to be religious, but in the organic whole food world, that is like a religion in a way. It's like, okay, I'm not going to eat it unless it was, blessed by the rabbi. I'm not going to eat it unless it was grown organically or unless it's minus the toxins from genetic modification or pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. or from the animals who are, in warehouses under fluorescent lights, eating grain instead of grass, or being pumped up with hormones and eating genetically modified feed. So technically butter isn't bad for you, but toxic butter is, and toxic butter would be your regular everyday butter on the shelf, as opposed to, let's say, a grass-fed butter from New Zealand. Like there's this one called Kerrygold. You can get it at Trader Joe's. You can get it at health food stores. But Kerrygold is 98% organically, the cows are eating wildly off of a free range. And for the most part, they can't say 100% organic because there's a few reasons that they can't. But that's when you have a happy cow eating its normal food under sunlight, giving you vitamin D, and it isn't pumped up with hormones and antibiotics and eating genetically modified food, you now have a healthy butter. So to say healthy fats means unadulterated. So I would avoid actual butter and I would eat coconut oil instead if I couldn't get a good butter.
In our fast food processed world, there's so much out there that, I think at this point we all know it's not good for you to eat. But, and you told me once that to ask somebody to totally radically change their diet and go from, the fast food processed world to, totally organic and whole food world is a lot for a lot of people. And sometimes it's best to start small. So if there is one thing that you could say above all else that people should eliminate from their diet, what would that be?
Okay, I'm actually going to say two things you should eliminate from your diet and one thing you should absolutely do. Okay, so the two things you should absolutely eliminate from your diet are high fructose corn syrup, which you find mostly in sodas and sweets, and partially hydrogenated oil that you would find in like Hostess cupcakes and Twinkies and a lot of cookies that are on shelves. Those two things are highly genetically modified. They are dangerous molecules. They don't exist in the human body, and the body does some very aberrant things in order to handle them. The high fructose corn syrup messes with your metabolism, causes, diabetes, obesity. It's a horrid thing. It shoots sugar into your bloodstream faster than insulin can handle it, and it throws the balance off. And partially hydrogenated oil was invented in the 1920s when we were having a depression and we couldn't afford butter and lard. So they basically took vegetable oil and pumped it up with hydrogen gas and made it hard like butter. And it was very smart. I don't think it was evil intended, but it turns out to line the arteries with a clear plastic that is more dangerous than any animal fat. So I just want to say those are the two. Please do not eat. And I love that you mentioned that you remember me talking about that it's not possible for people to have a sustainable diet change by going from however they eat all the way to this organic world. I have this concept called level up. Like from wherever you are, you want to level up a teeny bit at a time. That means if you eat out at fast food, then switch from McDonald's to Chipotle, which, by the way, McDonald's owns Chipotle. But a lot of the ingredients at Chipotle are organic. Interestingly enough, their corn tortillas aren't, but their white flour tortillas are. Their chicken isn't, but their beef is. It's a level up. You can have a beautiful bowl of rice and beans and guacamole and salad at Chipotle, and that's a huge level up from hamburger that's made from conventionally grown cows. So level up is the big concept that I want to say. So you got the two things I don't want you to do. Leveling up is a really important thing. But then the final thing that I want to say, if this is the last thing that I ever said and we got cut off and all of our electronics were gone and you heard this one last thing, I feel like it makes a huge, huge difference. And that one last thing is this. Chew your food to a paste. Most of us are not conscious when we eat. And we learned to chew before we had teeth and before we had words. And a lot of us are still chewing the same way. 1, 2, 3, swallow. We're swallowing boulders of food and we're not chewing them to a paste. And our digestions with the processed world that we live in and the stresses that we're under and the speed that we go, we have had such attack to our digestive systems. And so many people have bowel issues and digestive issues, and that causes allergies and immune deficiencies and immune diseases. If we chew our food to a paste, then we increase the chew time And then when we swallow, the amount of food that we're able to digest and absorb is increased exponentially. So we actually eat less and absorb more and tax the body less. It decreases the amount of whole foods that are making it through holes in our gut and that are flying around in our bloodstream and that are being attacked by white blood cells thinking it's a foreign invader and wasting our resources and exhausting our bodies and making us so tired. So that's a really long statement that I'm making, but I'm trying to give like the domino effect of not chewing the food, puts boulders in our stomach, taxes the digestion, whole bits of food go into the bloodstream. We're exhausted because it's treating it like a virus. We could both decrease all of those exhausting symptoms and increase digestion, absorption, and health, and eat less, and help our weight get more maintained and balanced if we literally just chewed our food to a paste. Whatever you're eating, if you're eating at McDonald's, chew it to a paste. I mean it. If it's the only thing that changed after hearing me, you'd be surprised at what a difference it makes. One more addition to this statement: it takes 20 minutes for the hormones in your stomach. They're called leptin. For the leptin to get to your brain to say, I am full. Most of us can eat 3 meals in 20 minutes based on the old chewing methods of 1, 2, 3, swallow. So if we're chewing to a paste, and I'm not saying slow chew like a cow, you just chew it until it's a paste. And you're going to notice as it slips back beyond your tongue, it's already chunks. Okay, swallow it. Or if you can pull it forward and re-chew it. Just create consciousness in the chewing process. It takes time, level up from where you are, but this is life-changing, this one thing.
I know, and it's something that I don't think anybody would ever really think about because we just do it so subconsciously all the time. Does it matter whether you're eating sitting down or standing up?
That's a good question. I'm laughing because when I was young, my mom used to say, sit down or all your food's going to go to your hips. I wouldn't say that it matters whether you're sitting down or standing up when you eat. I think what matters is whether you're relaxed when you eat. You know, I know people that stand at the kitchen counter and eat. If they're relaxed, then it's fine with me. It's all about the energy of the body. If we're not relaxed, if we have anxiety or anxiousness, then generally this is another very important thing to know for people that are very, very stressed and struggling with digestion. If we're anxious or stressed, then we may be sending cortisol out into our bloodstream. That's the fight or flight hormone. And when cortisol is flying into the bloodstream, it takes energy from 2 of our bodily systems. Because when cortisol flies, it's because we're scared. It's like we're running from a bear. And when you're running from a bear, there's 2 systems you definitely don't need. You don't need your digestive system, and you don't need your reproductive system. You're not having sex, you're not having babies, you're not eating, you're not hungry. And a lot of people, are scared to, what do they say? It scared the crap out of me, so to speak. Like we literally just dump everything when we're scared for the most part. So that's true when we're eating too. If we're eating in fear or we're eating with stress, then we're actually eating with energy that's been stolen from the digestive system. So it doesn't matter if you have the most organic, best food ever that's going into your stomach. Your digestive system shut down. It's going to shunt it through as fast as possible and go in without having much absorption. So sitting or standing, not a problem. You could be sitting in a car and stressed or standing in your kitchen and relaxed. Better to be standing in your kitchen relaxed. And
chewing until it's to a pace.
To a pace.
Exactly. Okay, we're going to take a short break here. We're talking with holistic health counselor Joey Sutton on Dream Power Radio. We'll be right back. What could be more dreamy than a cruise to the mysterious and exotic Cuba? Join me in June for a luxurious 8-night trip on Royal Caribbean's Empress of the Seas. We'll taste the cuisine in Havana, dance to the music in the enchanting cities of Cienfuegos and Santiago de Cuba, and much more. For more information and to sign up for this unforgettable trip, email me at debbie@dreampowerradio.com.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach, and we're speaking with holistic health counselor Joey Sutton. So Joey, are there any foods that affect our dreams?
Well, interestingly enough, personally, I find chocolate to give me difficult dreams. They agitate my dreams. I'm not sure if it's from the theobromine or the caffeine, the stimulation, I'm not sure, or maybe it's that sometimes it's mixed with something sweet. But I find personally that chocolate irritates my dreams, so I try to keep that at a earlier time. The Thanksgiving concepts of turkey having tryptophan and helping your dreams, absolutely. Tryptophan is an amino acid that totally relaxes the body. Chamomile and flowery teas, high mineral foods like grains, like oatmeal or brown rice, those usually have a higher degree of mineral content. And minerals are very interesting. Calcium, magnesium, these are usually minerals that I either take in the night or supplement with in the night or have foods in the evening because they're heavy. And they're interesting because the heaviness actually makes us more tired. So not that you want to have a bunch of grains before you go to bed, but at dinner time, those grains, if they're whole grains, are going to have beautiful amounts of minerals. Vegetables have lots of minerals in them. I also happen to really love algae like blue-green algae, spirulina, and chlorella. Those are highly absorptive forms of minerals. And I love taking magnesium after I work out because they soften the muscles. They also soften the heart muscle. And because they soften the heart muscle for anyone that has anxiety, it helps to relax the body. It helps us to go to sleep more smoothly. Other foods that help us go relax at night. You know what? I don't have more coming off the top of my head right now, Deb.
Well, that's quite a lot to absorb. So I think that's a really good.
Oh, good. I was thinking it's sufficient.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good start. Well, Joey, okay. Let me tell you, I have such a massive sweet tooth. Is it possible to eat healthy and still have sweets in my life?
Oh, absolutely. All right. First of all, if you have a sweet tooth, I would ask you a few questions. Have you had enough water? Have you had enough protein? And have you had enough sleep? Oh, and then the fourth one is, have you had enough touch or sex? So first we would answer those questions, and I won't ask you to answer them, but that's the first place I go when there's a sweet tooth. A lot of times a sweet tooth will happen if we've had a deficient meal. Okay, so you're not asking me that. You're asking me, can you still have sweets? So I could go back to that if you want to, but let's just talk about healthy sweets for a moment. There are healthy ways to have sweets. I was brought up in a bakery growing up. White flour, white sugar, butter, and chocolate chips were my first food groups. So I like sweets. No matter how healthy I am, it's still my comfort food, and my thinking goes to sweets often. Now, if I'm being strict off of sweeteners, I will have apples and peanut butter, and it tastes like a candy apple to me. Or I'll have right now I'm addicted to persimmons. I have learned to become acclimated to the taste of stevia. I will use small amounts of raw honey, coconut sugar. I do make my own hot fudge with coconut sugar and stevia. I use the stevia so I can use less coconut sugar. Coconut sugar is taken from the sap of the flower of the coconut palm tree. And so it contains minerals and vitamins and also fiber. And because it contains those things, there's a slightly lower absorption, a slower absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. So if I were to bake something with sugar, I would use coconut sugar. But I do play with cutting the coconut sugar with some stevia. They also have a sweetener called monk fruit. And there's also called Lohan Go for some of you that know your Chinese. And there's erythritol is a sugar alcohol. That's what they usually use for diabetics. And so there's different ways to have sweets that are still look like a cookie, still look like a brownie, still look like a milkshake or a hot fudge sundae that have alternative ingredients. Do you have to work a little harder for them? Yes. But if I have a sweet tooth, I can't really go out into my secular community and find these things easily unless you know some places that have, and I have health food stores and health food restaurants that I like. But when I'm at home generally and I want to eat something, I will make it. I will make it out of those ingredients. Is that, okay. One more thing. Also, I like to use whole grains. I try not to have white flour. I don't even eat flour. So, but white grains, like there's brown rice and there's white rice. So if you take the fiber and the oil off of the rice, you're left with this little starch called white rice. And then that easily and quickly turns to sugar. So I try to make sure that my grains are whole. The oil and the bran on wrapped around your rice is going to slow the absorption of the sugar and starch into your system. So that keeps you from having a diabetic response. So having said that, there's still ways to have, whole grain, more healthily sweetened sweets, cookies, cake, brownies. Seriously, you can have them. And I have recipes for those for you, Debbie. And there's some on my website too at loveyourwaytohealth.com.
Oh, good to know. I wanted to ask you one more thing about food as we start to wrap this up. With so many people, with their super busy lives, and the last thing they want to do is come home and spend hours cooking a meal, even a very healthy meal. I know that you create tons of yummy and delicious and healthy recipes. Do you have an example of a simple, healthy meal that someone can create quickly?
No, yeah, absolutely. So we want to think in categories. You want to think, if you're an animal eater, if you eat animal products, you can think this way. Think a medium amount of animal protein, a large amount of vegetables, and a small amount of a starchy vegetable or grain, and saute them all together. So here's an example. Chopped up chicken, broccoli, and butternut squash, and onions, let's say. And I'm a big fan of the saute pan because everything can go into one thing. Otherwise, you're doing a roasted chicken and you're steaming your broccoli, and then you're making your potatoes or your yams, and it's all these, different pans, and it's all this cleaning. I chop everything up and put it in a saute pan. Now, of course, the root vegetable, let's say it's butternut squash, that's harder than broccoli, and it's going to take longer to cook than the chicken. So you put the harder thing in the pan first, saute it up with some oil, put the top on so it steams a little bit, and then you can add the broccoli and the chicken and saute it up. Add a little bit of some tamari, and add a little bit of fish sauce, and add a little bit of coconut oil, and you have this delicious meal in one pan.
And very easy to make. Okay.
And very easy to make. Right.
Right. So how
you can also stick those same ingredients. Go ahead.
You were saying, I'm sorry. You wanted to add something?
Yes, I wanted to add something. You can also take all three of those ingredients and put them in one pan and stick them in the oven. Spray them with olive oil, add a little bit of tamari or some, your favorite salt and garlic pepper, and just stick it in and roast it for an hour at 350. And you have everything that you want in one pan.
Okay.
You can do a similar thing in the rice cooker.
Can't get any easier than that. Okay. How can people find out more about you?
Well, my website is loveyourwaytohealth.com. So you can look me up there. I have tons of resources and services, and I have a media page with other interviews or videos if you want to get to know a little bit more about me. You can also call me or email me at J-O, at loveyourwaytohealth.com, and I provide a complimentary 30-minute consultation for anyone that's interested in thinking they may want to work with me or see if we're the right fit. So I really think it's important to be the right fit. So that's why I like to provide that free 30 minutes. And you can contact me via my website or my email address to get a hold of me.
Great. Oh my God, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Joey, for being on Power Radio today. Great. I'm Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
And thank you again. I'm Debbie Spector-Weissman. I hope you tune in next time. Until then, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.